It's that time again, buddies. Welcome back. Hey, it's Concert Buddy. This video, this episode, is going to be focusing on something I saw kind of in some other videos, and we'll get into that in a second, but vinyl wish list. So for 2025, it's not so much my vinyl resolutions, more so just what are some things I'm really going to kind of double down, triple down, get hyper-focused about adding to my collection in 2025. What are those things? Oh, come on. That's what we call the deep tease. Cue that lever and let's get into it now. Hiya! The idea for this video is not mine. I mean, it is, but it's not. I guess the inspiration, the titillation, the perspiration to do this video really comes from a video I saw from Billy Hurst, friend of the show, friend of the channel, friend in real life, record store proprietor of Riverbend Records, Godfrey, Illinois. Talked about him in platitudes on this channel, but he did a video toward the end of the year talking about records he's looking for, not as a record store owner, but as a record collector himself. And it got me thinking, well, and you'll hear a little bit more about Billy later in the video, but that video got me thinking that maybe I should kind of organize a list. And then I saw a video from Dom. His channel is Seeking a Thread. Got the pleasure to meet Dom at the WFMU record show not too long ago in New York. Same thing. Here's some stuff I'm looking to pick up in 2025. And then Kendall, Spin Doctor, and his vinyl Mayhem. Talked about him on the channel. Great guy, North Carolina. He kind of saw Billy's video, did his own video, etc. So here I am. Off the backs of greats, I come to you with my own video. But no, before we get into what I'm looking for, I want to give Kendall some flowers. And the kids call us give him flowers because Kendall recently was on vacation. Toward the end of the year, I was actually not in a position or mindset to get any more records at the end of the year. I just pulled the trigger on that Tool Enema record from my last video somewhere here. And he was on vacation. Went to a shop, I think it was called Gent Rosa Records up in Connecticut, and sent me some photos from the shop. The shop was straight fire. I had no other choice but to salivate at some of these records, some of which I already had, fortunately. But there was one that I had to break my vow, break my covenant with my wallet for the end of the year and acquire. Let me show you that to you real quick.
Boner alert!
All right, so if you are a big metalhead, maybe you're not a metalhead, I'm sure you've heard of Megadeth. And this is their 1997 album, Cryptic Writings. Now, this record has never been released in the States. This is the UK copy, European copy, that I've literally never seen in the flesh. Over here, this shop had it. And man, you know, it's one of those things where you see it and you know you got to do the deal. So Kendall was kind enough to look it over for me in the flesh. Said it looked good. VG Plus, jacket's in pretty good shape, etc., etc., etc. Talked to the owner. I called up there. We worked out a deal. And next thing you know, this guy, as I'm knocking things over, this guy is en route to me to join the Fabled Records of my Megadeth collection. I listened to it. Sounds pretty good. I mean, you can tell it's digitally sourced for that time. But overall, I was happy, more than happy, to grab this guy. And then there's more. Whoa, wait, there's more. Kendall thought he was slick and threw in some BCLT. If you ever watch his channel, he talks about Michael Bolton sometimes. And it's kind of a running joke. Somewhat. I mean, I kind of like the music, right? But anyway, before he was Michael Bolton, he was Michael Bulletin. And Kendall saw this. I guess he's from that Connecticut area, Michael Bolton, whatever you want to call him. And so I think Kendall picked up maybe a record for himself and then sent me this one. This is a nice promo copy. So Kendall not only was generous with his time and helping me out and mastermind getting Megadeth into my collection, was kind enough to send some BCLT with it, padded the package, so to speak. That's what I do all the time. I'm a master of padding the package. Yes.
Come again.
Kendall, shout out to you, sir. What a great hookup. Thank you.
What are you looking at, butthead?
So I'm going to start this list with a singer-songwriter out of the UK. Probably heard of him. Newish to me, only in the sense I've never really spent time with his catalog, and that's Nick Drake from the UK. put out 3 albums. He expired prematurely, passed away. I think he was 26. He overdosed on some antidepressant medication, sad stuff. But it wasn't until recently I picked up at one of my locals his second album, Brighter Later, and I've been spending some time with that. I've enjoyed it, that it's kind of inspired me to chase down originals of his catalog. Now, there's a lot more that comes to that, but more so, this isn't like a new development. I've always liked singer-songwriter, from Ray LaMontagne to David Gray to Amos Lee, Jason Isbell, or other like country kind of singer-songwriters. Think about Chris Stapleton, I like. Sturgill Simpson's another one. So it's in that wheelhouse, but a little outside the wheelhouse, but still in the same house, if that makes sense.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
As that journey kind of evolves, and we'll hear about a little bit more about that in a second, Nick Drake is somebody I've really wanted to kind of explore, especially as I've kind of been dipping my toes into Brighter Later. But he has 2 other albums. He has 5 Leaves Left, which is his debut album, and then he has his last album, Pink Moon. And I got to be honest with you, buddies, part of the reason I'm trying to chase these down is not only the music, always the music, but these are, I'm going to be honest, hard to find records. These are generally UK first presses. They've been reissued. You know, there's that saying, if it's about the music, and it's true. If it's about the music, I'd just be happy with reissues. But, you know, I'm a record collector, and I've got 4,000 records, and there's a reason I like doing what I do. And part of the chase is part of what I like to do. Now, here's the problem. One of the problems. These records are not cheap. These records go for, as I'm finding, crazy, silly, monopoly money stuff. So maybe a minute before I add these Nick Drake records to my collection.
I have a day job.
Similar in that singer-songwriter vein is an artist who I already have some records of, but I really want to lean into the OGs, the originals. And that artist is Townes Van Zandt, singer-songwriter, the Fort Worth, Texas area. A longer life than Mr. Drake, and maybe some people I'll talk about here in a second. I already have some of Townes Van Zandt's records. I got some. Violently Pleased did some reissues, like anniversary reissues, I think in conjunction with like Fat Possum Records, I think a couple years ago. So I got those. I enjoy those. But I've never really gotten hands in the soil on those. A couple years ago, I was fortunate enough to get a first reissue of his second record, Our Mother of the Mountain. That was on the Tomato record label. So I got one of those, one of my locals, $30 maybe. So I did pretty good on that. And I liked it, but it didn't catch me, didn't rip into me. So talking about Billy earlier, Townes Van Zandt's, technically his 3rd album, self-titled, is one that's been on Billy's want list for a long time. Maybe even longer than I've known Billy. But I'll tell you, every time I go down to the Austin Record Convention, that's the one record that's been consistent. That Billy's like, hey, if you see an original on Poppy label, that's what I'm after. Came close once. I found the first reissue on Tomato, but Billy didn't want to pull the trigger. It was like $100, and he's like, nah, I'm going to hold out for the original. Spoiler alert, he's going to be glad he did, and there's a story behind that Billy can tell. You may see some common threads in this whole video. All that said, now I find myself in the same position as Billy. I'm trying to get that record too. I'm trying to get all the records. I'm trying to get his first record, For the Sake of the Song. Travis Foley, I know you're watching. He just got an original. He made a trip up to Peoria, and he had to rub it in my nose. We like to do this to each other. We're a very perverse, weird group. We like to rub our nose when somebody gets the record that someone else is after, and they also want to. So anyway, I'm glad you got it, Travis. But long story long, looking to get all the Townes Van Zandt originals. Ideally, I'd like to get the whole catalog. I know some of his later stuff before he died, like in the 70s and 80s, wasn't that great. Or I shouldn't say wasn't that great. It just wasn't as impactful as maybe his early material. Delta Mama Blues is another good album. Another reason that I've kind of wanted to get focused on the Townes Van Zandt early stuff and OGs is John, the Digital Gramophone, if you've seen this channel. I had the good fortune of meeting him in North Carolina not too long ago. Shared some barbecue, broke some brisket, broke bread, broke brisket, so to speak, and got to know him. I enjoyed him a lot. Enjoyed that time together. But he did the Sad Bastard tag, a great name and a great concept. I did not participate. Sorry, John. namely because I'm just not a sad bastard. I mean, sometimes maybe, but no, I really thought it was a really smart concept and really agree, because these vinyl tags, good God, you've heard about enough of them, and I'm tuned out of them because there's just too much. But that was one that's actually smart, different, and as he's going through the albums and songs and all that stuff as part of his video and his tag, he talked about Townes Van Zandt. He talked about this one particular song. And I got to be honest with you, buddies, I hadn't even thought about that in a hot minute. So I'm at work. I had it on my playlist to listen to, and the thing pops up, and holy smokes, got me. And that's when I was hooked. And that's what got me back on the train of like, maybe I need to go get these originals. And another reason I think like this too is you want to get them before they're ungettable. That makes sense, because some of these prices, like talking about those Nick Drake records, I mean, that's some serious coin. That's some serious Scrooge McDucks. So while the album I just talked about, self-titled, is pretty expensive, some of these other ones, especially if you want the stuff on Poppy, like his early stuff on Poppy, not cheap, but still attainable. So I want to lock that in before it gets to the point where I'm literally selling a kidney on the black market to get some of these records. Don't know if I'd ever do that, but I think you understand where I'm coming from.
Who the hell am I?
To piggyback off of Townes Van Zandt, there was an artist also in Texas about the same time, or a little bit later than Townes, and his artist's name was Blaze Foley. Great name. And Blaze Foley only put out one true LP during his lifetime, and that was self-titled Blaze Foley, 1984, on Private Press. The album, the label was called Vital Records, I think it was. And the music's good. It's like singer-songwriter country stuff. He has a song, maybe you've heard it, Girl Scout Cookies.
Girl Scout cookies, yum, yum, yum. Save my money, gonna buy me some.
One reason I want to get it is because, the music's not bad. Another reason is the story. I love the stories behind the artists and the music and art they create. And this story is interesting in a couple different levels. One, 1984, his album's about to come out. They pressed him, they got him ready, and his manager, Blaze Foley's manager, apparently was in some nefarious stuff and got pinched and I guess turned state's evidence in some kind of high-profile case, and they put him in a witness protection program. Vanishes. Gone. So now Blaze is left with all these records he's got to sell. He's selling them at shows, the back of his car, flea markets, gives them to friends to sell, give them away, what have you. So that's pretty wild, right? Another piece of this is 1984, the album comes out. 1989, just 5 years later, he's shot and killed by the son of a friend of his named Concho January. I'm going to repeat, Concho January. What a name. Well, Concho's not who killed him as this kid, apparently, and I guess there was dispute over some pension money, and who knows. Shot him with a shotgun, as the story goes. I mean, literally, you talk about a sad country song. I mean, this guy's life ended and had, the story about the guy, the manager, witness protection. I mean, living embodiment of a sad country Texas song. John, you should put this in your sad bastard tag. But anyway, so just from a story perspective, I love it.
I've been practicing for years.
This record, self-titled, not cheap, but it's what I'll call a record collector's record. Now, you don't have to have this record in your collection to be a record collector. That's not what I mean. I just mean like it's something that if you know about it, you know, and if you like a lot of the similar themes the record collectors have of, being archivists, protecting and saving these things before they're lost, these artifacts, also enjoying the music, enjoying the stories and sharing the stories, like all of that, like this is a prime candidate to go out and find and add to my collection and enjoy. That said, these don't come up too often. Last one I heard about coming up was just a few months ago, and some friends of mine, our little chat was talking about it. Antone's Records in Austin, Texas. Blaze was based out of Austin, so you would think there's a higher propensity of this album being there. Makes sense. They came up with one, sold one. I think it was like $500. So anyway, that's on the list. I will say, spoiler alert, keep your fingers, toes, and eyebrow hairs crossed. I have a lead on one out of that same area, so I'm hopeful that I can kind of make that happen, but we'll see. This is why you watch the channel. You see, this is what we call the long game. I'm planting the seeds now, about this. And you keep watching videos later, and then you'll find out if I procure it or not. But anyway, Blaze Foley, self-titled. I'd like to add that in 2020.
When the son of the deposed king of Nigeria emails you directly asking for help, you help. His father ran the freaking country.
What I'm going to talk about for 2025 is you made us laugh your head off. I've never really focused on getting original Beatles records, and I think I am. And here's why, because a couple months ago, that Beatles box set, the capital US version, air quotes, came out, and I picked one up. But I never opened it. And I kind of thought to myself, is this something I need to have, want to have, or just have to have? And it was more the latter. And then I got thinking of it, like, I do love the Beatles music. Why have I never really gotten serious about collecting originals? So with that in mind, I returned the box set back to the small independent store, Amazon, maybe you've heard of it, and used some of those funds to get the Tool Enema record, which I talked about in a recent video. A lot of it was kind of moving some of the financial monies involved with that. But anyway, planted the seed, and now I'm pouring water on it to make it grow. Beatles originals, why not? So that's kind of where, and this will take a while. This isn't something I'm going to knock out all in 2025, but it's just something I'm going to be a little bit more serious about. And especially as, like, these albums I've been talking about, they're older, 50 plus years old, some of them. UK, it's not as easy to get that kind of stuff here in the States. So adds a little bit of the challenge, adds a little bit more of put some logs on the fire of, when I don't feel like going out digging and going out to my locals, like, maybe a little kick in the pants to just, you never know unless you go.
All right, that's enough.
That's all I got, buddies. 2024 in the books, 2025. I'm almost a month in, so I'm a little bit behind in this chase. But like I said, I've got to lead on one of them potentially. But tell me in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Always appreciate you. Thanks for the support of Vinyl Community Podcasts. Surface Noise every week. A-side I host. Other weeks, B-side Spins Vinyl hosts. Thanks for your support. It means a lot. But keep listening to your records. The most important piece of this, keep listening to your records. And so when you get the chance, put that record on, sit in that nice chair, have a nice beverage or 2 or 5, just spin it. I'll see you soon.
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
Well, we out of time.